welcome to Love Always Self. I'm Shira.
Hi, y'all. I'm Karista, and thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Love Always Self.
Hi.
And welcome all the new subscribers. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you.
Yes, and while we have you in this very moment, please don't forget, if you could do us a favor, leave a review either on Spotify or Apple Podcasts.
Yes.
Right? It's Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, I think so.
Not like iPodcasts or something. Okay, yeah.
Definitely Apple Podcasts. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
So any reviews, any positive feedback that you have, leave it there. Amplify the reach. And if you have anything that you feel we need to work on, send it to contact@lovealwaysself.com.
Yes.
And that also goes for if you have any topics that you want us to dive deeper into, we would love to hear them. It gives us something to go off and lets us know like what you're interested in. And that is important to us because we want to keep
the content going for all of our audience. It's you guys listening to us that helps us out. So
I love that we finish each other's sentences. It's so helpful.
I just jumped right in. I was like, I'm going in.
I'm going in.
I'm gold. So awesome. So speaking of topics, we were deciding on what topic we wanted to talk about today. And during that decision making, I decided to go ahead and sit within, connect to my guides, what we refer to as Mount Glass. If you are new to our podcast, Mount Glass is an acronym that we gave to our angels, guides, ancestors, whatever you want to call it.
We'll just call it out. It's masters, teachers, guides, loved ones, angels, self, and source.
Yes, yes. And we love them dearly. They love us dearly. They love all of us. And they definitely help with gaining some perspectives and information and just a lot of freaking aha moments for sure. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I had a little chit chat with them today. They presented quite a few topics for us to talk about. I was just kind of spitting them out as fast as I could because sometimes I have a hard time keeping up when they go into rapid thought.
Since those topics were coming in at rapid pace, I went ahead and was taking notes. So ultimately, we landed on the topic of keeping spirituality simplified. Yeah. So we kind of wanted to dive deeper into that because life is chaotic. And there's always this information coming from all these different sources of, oh, you have to be this way to get accepted into heaven, or God's not going to love you if you do X, Y, and Z. You know, all these different requirements to be accepted. And I think that we can make things more complicated than they need to be.
Just a bit.
Just
a bit.
We're just going to go back to the basics here of spirituality and really what that means to us.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of the conversations that you and I have had when we were developing our gifts, right? And I'll call them gifts because I think that's what everyone gravitates towards. I like to call them abilities because they're just part of our human design.
They're extra senses.
Right.
And ESP.
ESP. And part of being able to dive into some of the aspects of spirituality does have a lot to do with going within, right? Mm-hmm. And so for simplistic sake, I will say that getting to know self is one of the biggest key elements and the most seemingly simple elements of, in my mind, spirituality and how that means to me, right?
That does sound so simple, yet everything in our culture tends to pull our focus and our awareness outside of self.
Yes. So that's going to be some of the basics that I feel like is important from my own personal handbook of what's simple, right? So in retrospect, figuring out what it is that makes me tick as a human being, right? Or what I feel is spiritual for me was not as complicated as finding out what it was meant or what it means to everyone else. Mm-hmm. It like looking back at it now, right? Like going through the different YouTube channels or podcasts and listening to how do you connect with your guides. And I found so often that it was like, it seemed like everyone really complicated it. And that was very frustrating to me because I was like, okay, so is spirituality channeling? Is spirituality you see ghosts? Like is spirituality, which originally I thought when you say the word spiritual, I would assume that it had some kind of connection to a religion of sorts, right? Until I found out otherwise, or until really it started evolving into something otherwise. So anyway, basically for me, it started with self-awareness, awareness being the key one, and understanding what is it about me that allows me to navigate and see things from a different perspective. And I know that that sounds like so simplified in the terms of our episode today, but it really was, looking back at it, just that easy for me. And let me explain that, because I feel like that somebody who's like really trying to dive into themselves and understand themselves a lot better might be like, whoa, 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 that's not an easy task to do. But I want you to think about it in the terms of, let's think. When you wake up in the morning, what's the first thought that you have in your head usually? What's the one thing that repeats to yourself over and over again?
Oh man, I gotta get up.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, if that thought, and I have those thoughts all the time still, but what does that tell me about myself? So now I'm just investigating. I'm investigating my own thoughts. And the first thing that comes to my mind is, well, shit, I'm not happy with what I'm doing. If I don't have anything to look forward to from that point of waking up and knowing that I got to do things that day, and I'm not looking forward to doing things that day, I'm not happy with what I'm doing, right? Okay, great. I've identified that. I have full awareness. Then it's moving forward from there, and that's where things get complicated, in my opinion. But it's something as simple as asking yourself questions. The same questions you ask other people when you want to get to know them. And so that's a really easy way to simplify it, I think.
I do think that looking within and practicing creating that deeper connection with self and trying to understand where ideas or patterns or, thought processes come from, and then working to heal them or create new ones. I think that is a part of the self-love practice of introspection. I do think that there is an additional side to that. So I think that there is an important aspect of being connected with self. I also think that just as important is becoming aware of that connection to everything else around you.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah.
And what was the golden rule, right? Do unto others as you want done unto you. I learned that at a young age, and I felt like that was really imprinted in my awareness and created a lot of life patterns and habits out of that. Both, we'll call them good and bad, right? Like there's extremes. But knowing that at the end of the day, when you treat yourself bad, you're treating other people and the world and the universe poorly. When you love other people, you are also loving yourself. And so learning to find that balance, I think, is an important aspect of understanding that interconnectedness. Now, spirituality itself, I think it's really hard to put it into our limited human terms, because I think we are limited in our experiences because of our humanness. And not that we have to remain limited. I do believe that we can expand outside of what we've been told we are.
Yeah.
But I think in trying to define what spirituality means to me, I think it's a practice of kindness, respect, and love to yourself and all things and beings.
Yeah. I agree. Well said.
Thanks.
Well, I love everything that you just said, because it does connect with all the different aspects, and it really kind of allows you to put a much larger umbrella over the multitude of little umbrellas that are falling underneath it, right? One of my favorite things about why we started calling this podcast Love Always, comma self, is that it is a love note to yourself. Because without the introspection of what it is that you love about yourself, it makes it really freaking hard to truly love others and understand that you are connected to others. Because once you start diving into you, you'll realize very quickly in that diving in that everything around you is reacting to you in some way or another.
Or vice versa. You're reacting to it.
Right, right. And so it makes a huge shift in your perspectives. And that's why we have an entire playlist about shifting perspectives, because all of a sudden you'll be like, I never thought of it that way. Or, where did that thought come from? Or, why do I react like this to certain triggers, right? Or maybe you are aware of it, but you never figured that you had to work on it. Or why does this one situation just keep repeating itself in different ways every time, over and over and over again? And all of a sudden, when you start doing the work and you start asking yourself questions, you'll realize that maybe that was something I was supposed to learn. Maybe that's something I was supposed to work through. Maybe if I just try to set it and forget it, it really does come back out and play, right? And so all of it is very much so connected. In the terms of what spirituality basics mean to me, just the terminology itself is everything that Carrie just said. It's being able to love myself fully and completely enough that, or to any point, to understand that by me loving self, I love others, and we're all connected in this. And it's not just a human being, but it is the animals, it is the planet, it is the every single being that's around us. It is also inanimate objects sometimes, right? You see people that have like this love for a table. I was like, I
mean, it's loving the air you breathe, loving the water that you drink.
Right. And understanding that we're all here to experience. And I want to leave it at just that word, experience. So that's what I think of when I think of the basics of spirituality. Sounds like a handful, but
Right. And I feel like if you just start practicing with yourself, like loving and accepting yourself and being kind to yourself, that starts to expand outward. And so doing things like positive affirmations and, taking time to journal or talk to friends like, hey, I'm recognizing this pattern. Do you see it too? And just have a conversation. You're not trying to necessarily have somebody else solve your problems, because that doesn't work always, most of the time. But it's you that needs to provide the healing to yourself so that that love can actually expand outward. And I was actually listening to another podcast today on Next Level Soul.
I love that guy.
And there was a woman that had an NDE, near-death experience. And she was explaining the level of, I don't even know if level is the right word, but the experience of love from source. And how the words themselves do not compete. That the experience of love that we have as humans on this planet, it's nothing compared to the love that source is.
Yeah.
And so I just think that that is super exciting as far as something to look forward to.
Not anytime soon.
No. But yeah, next transition.
Right.
But I'm just like kind of in awe of, wow. Like I've been in love. I love myself. I love my best friends. I love my family. I love my my little puppers and fur babies. But like combining all that and multiplying it times infinity, like, and then some more.
Yeah.
Like, wow. That sounds really satisfying.
Yeah, it does. It really does. I got this thought just now of, and sorry for bringing this up again, because it's just that profound to me what I experienced in that dream. that we shared. I think that's 2 episodes back.
I'll link it down below.
Yeah. Um, this like line of individuals that I've ever interacted with expressing the congratulations for getting through that step and we love you so much. And I felt that, like, I mean, I woke up with this overwhelming sense of, oh my gosh, I have gratitude for every shit moment that ever happened in my life. And that's huge. Because some of those were very bad. And so that was huge for me to experience that. And then I kept thinking during this like transition of waking up and like, oh my God, what just happened and everything. And one of the thoughts that I was having and I continue to have to this day is I can't believe that somebody would love so much that they would enact or participate in such awful experiences just for you to have that experience, or that you yourself would do the same for them. Like that was wild concept to me. And so I believe it when somebody says that, yeah, from source, the amount of love is just not something you can put into definition, or that us as humans can't possibly experience it at that grand of a level, in a physical form without basically popping out of said physical form, But it does give me a little bit of hope that maybe some of the jobs that we're here to do and the lessons that we're here to do is try to bring as much of that as possible here and experience that here in a physical form.
I was just thinking about how we experience some humans as being absolutely terrible, like evil.
Yeah.
And the agreement that their soul made to be that evil human so that there will be experiences beyond that assist others.
Yeah. Like it's a really like, it's tough. It's a very tough, like, pill to swallow.
Yeah. It's really hard to, what's the word? Rectify that.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Because on one hand, as a human, I can't, like, those are terrible, atrocious deeds that are done and they should be punished. But on the other side, it's, wow, their soul agreed to do that because they loved all these people so much. It's really hard to rectify that.
It is. It is. And honestly, like, I've heard other stories since that dream. I've sought it out because I was like, what the heck did I just experience, right? And I've heard other stories state those same things. And that was validating for me because I was like, oh, so what did I experience then? But at the same time, that made me think about, well, if I'm being validated with that dream, then maybe that's true. And if maybe that's true, then I can let go of all of the hurt and the pain that I've held on to that has only hindered my current experiences and any experiences that I plan to have going forward. And so if that's something I can do and it's my choice and I get to make that choice, then I say, thank you for those experiences. Sorry it sucked, but I'm going to choose now to let go of that because I'm still here and it's not happening to me right now.
Yeah, I think that's really important in recognizing that with spirituality, it's your choice. That's, again, we are maybe oversimplifying it because it doesn't always feel easy to make a certain choice in a certain situation. But knowing that it is, like it's that simple.
Right.
I did want to point on one other thing. So earlier I had said I would define spirituality in simplistic terms as being kind, loving, and respectful. So I just wanted to clarify on that respectful one, that there's a difference between respect and obedience. So when like people say respect your elders,
Right.
are you really respecting them or are you just being obedient? In religion, are you doing it because you truly love or are you just following the rules?
Right. Although I wouldn't say that I tie to any very specific religion in any way. I will say that there are some things that religion has assisted people in, things like community and
Oh, absolutely.
and sharing joyful moments and love and supporting one another and things of that nature. I just don't personally subscribe to the parts of it that say it's only this way or this way.
I think I'm not necessarily trying to point out just religion in that aspect, but even like authority figures, right? So if an authority figure tells you that you have to say the Pledge of Allegiance,
Yeah.
most of the time we just obeyed throughout elementary school without knowing what we were saying.
It's true.
I didn't necessarily respect it because I didn't understand it, but I obeyed because that's what was instructed of me to do.
Wow.
As an example.
That's profound. Okay. Get it.
Anyways, I digress.
I loved it. All good. I loved it. This particular card pull, before we
Transition.
transition, I will say this. This one was unusual for me. It was unusual in the sense that normally I shuffle. I let the timelines play out the way they're exactly supposed to, and the ones that pop out are exactly for what you need, right? Whenever you get this piece of information. And this one was different for me. This one was very poignant. I could feel the vibration of the cards in my hands as I split a deck in two with my eyes closed, and I could feel the difference in the texture and the vibration around the card. And I was getting these messages from Mount Glass as I was doing that. So all three cards were very much pulled specifically because they felt different and they were energetically different.
Interesting.
So I'm very interested in seeing what that looks like. So yeah. So speaking of, it is
The collective card reading. Woo. Today we are using Kyle Gray's Angel Guide Oracle deck.
Yes, we are. All right.
At least the giggles finally calmed
Dear.
down.
Yeah. We had a
Oh.
moment.
We had minutes of moments.
Stay tuned for bloopers.
So we will go ahead and show card number 1, which is Clear, Cancel, and Release.
This particular card, just to describe it for all of our audio only listeners, there is a angel, because this is an angel guide. So most of the characters on each of the cards are actually angels. And this one has blonde hair that's very short with bangs, blue eyes, fair skin, is doing a hand crisscross in front of them, in front of this angel, with light shooting out of both hands. It's got beautifully blue dressed and green. Are those green or blue wings spread behind? And a very light, subtle look on her or his face that's almost kind of smirky a little bit, but just like a polite smirk.
So Clear, Cancel, and Release. I read a little bit in the guidebook on this one. So I will say that when we can declutter our physical space, we are also decluttering our psychic space.
Yes, that is very true.
And when we declutter, that can be physical objects, again, in the physical space, or it can also be limited thought patterns, patterns of negative thinking, negative affirmations, so speaking poorly to yourself or to others. Anything that is no longer serving you well can be cleansed, canceled, and released.
I like it. I also like that when this card came, the first card that is here, I had asked for validation utilizing the deck that I was holding in my hands with what the guides were suggesting as our topic for today. And this is the card, and it actually looks like a feminine aspect of Brady. So,
Brady is her main guide.
yes.
For those that are new. So the deck says, Angel Wisdom wants you to recognize and realize the power of your words, thoughts, and intentions. If you are saying something, even jokingly, about yourself that might have a negative effect on you or express something you wish wasn't real, you are being encouraged to be more loving towards yourself. Angels are guiding you to clear, cancel, and release anything you no longer want or need in order to make more room for love, positivity, and peace, aka spirituality.
I cannot say this enough to my friends and my loved ones and all of you beautiful listeners that are also part of that friends and loved ones. Speaking, thinking creates reality. It creates a vibration. It creates a connection. It does have an impact. And so we have to be mindful of it. I'm not saying be scared of your own thoughts, please, but just be aware of them. So,
yeah, I agree. It's not to scare you, but rather encourage you to do that introspection and that self-reflection so that you become aware of those patterns so that you can make those changes so that you can feel more loved and fulfilled.
yes. What type of gas do you want to put in your car? You know what I'm saying?
I thought you were talking about farting gas.
Not that
I
gas.
thought you were going to say, what kind of gas do you want to have?
Gasolina.
Are we going to like Pitbull here? Like do some, I can't even sing the song. Oh, alrighty. Card number 2, angelic protection.
Ooh, mama likes. So, wow, where do I even begin to describe this? So on this card, we have an angel that has beautiful big gold wings. It does look like a male figure of darker complexion and is holding a sword and also looks like it's holding a shield made of light. And around his face and kind of like encompassing his shoulders, it looks like a light protection bubble surrounding the upper half of his being. And he looks very stoic. He looks like he's on guard. And yeah, I guess the angel of protection. This beautiful card.
It really is. I love this shield because you're right. It's like this see-through. It's being projected from his hand.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool.
Do you notice too at the top where it kind of like hourglasses together? It reminds me of the throat. And because it's blue, it reminds me more of the throat chakra.
Oh,
Yeah.
well done.
I just thought that was interesting. So going back to being conscious of your word choice.
Nice. I like that whenever I think of doing my protection bubble, which I encourage and I personally practice on a daily basis, especially if I know I'm going to be in a crowded room, I just like to have that extra layer of energy protection around me. I always imagine white, bluish white light, this pure white source of light. And I always imagine that it's coming from a higher dimension, from above, down above, around my face, and then the bubble expands. And I always like to drizzle it with gold. So seeing this little interpretation of energy protection is actually really cool because it's so validating.
Get you some of that gold drizzle.
Get you some of that gold drizzle.
So connecting the second card to the first card, when we're working on clearing out old thought patterns that no longer serve us, some of that requires us to reflect back to like childhood or young adulthood, some maybe traumas that we've experienced. And when we are initially going through that, it can be very scary. And so much so that many people resist it or avoid it. And I've heard that some of that is brought on because the fear of not being able to get out of that feeling,
Right.
that pain that they experience. They don't want to relive that traumatic experience. Don't blame them.
Right.
In that healing, though, we are not trying to relive that experience, but rather observe it from a higher perspective and provide that love and that kindness and that compassion to that younger self that needed it in those moments. Now, why I'm bringing that up is because we always have the love and the protection of our Mount Glass, of our guides and our angels. They're always there. And they will be there with you to help guide you and bring you up out of that too. They will shine the light on the path. And I get that it can be scary that we're going to get stuck. It's remembering that we can't get around working through it when we're wanting to let go of things. We have to go through it to get through it. So just a little bit out of the guidebook. I went straight to the extended message. You are protected. The worst is now behind you, and you are ready to move beyond the challenges that you've been facing. The past is gone, and your angel guide is encouraging you to let go. If traumatic or painful memories have revisited you recently, know that they are opportunities to recognize how far you have come and acknowledge how much healing has taken place in your life. When you have reflected on these shifts, leave the past behind and move forward. The present is only a gift if you are able to receive it.
Ooh, there's that let go again. That's not 3 times just today for that.
That let go and being open to receiving. Now, the last card was clearing out the old shit to allow more love, peace, and prosperity or positivity or whatever it was.
Right.
And so this is right in alignment with that.
To the third card, I'm
Alrighty.
interested because there's a theme to what I was seeing earlier. What? Okay.
Ooh, I like this one. There's so many rainbows. This one is signs and reminders.
And this card,
have fun explaining that.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a serious attempt here. If you are listening on audio only, please feel free to go over to our YouTube channel at Love Always Self and take a gander. I try to do my best to put in the timestamps for you guys, but I might have to do that specifically for this one so you see this card. Okay.
And if you do meander on over to YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
Please. That'd be great. Thank you. All right. So in the upper left-hand side of this card, there are puffy purple-ish colored clouds, kind of purple pink. To the top in the center, there is a star and a moon. Maybe that's a planet. Not sure. And right below that, we have what appears to be inside of the shape of a diamond, or maybe it's a pyramid where you see the reflection of the top and the bottom. Who knows? There's a big feather right in the center. There's butterflies flying off to the right of that. There's a rainbow right underneath the tip of the bottom of that diamond shape. There are birds flying what looks to be towards that lighted up feather. And right underneath that tip of that little diamond at the bottom, underneath the rainbow, it is the planet or a planet. Could be Earth.
It looks like Earth.
Possibly. Maybe it's another one. So yeah, this is a great representation of all of the beautiful signs that your guides send you. Loved ones, your Mount Glass likes to send you per se. Whether you're looking up into the shape of a cloud and you recognize a symbol or a shape within the cloud that reminds you of something, or maybe you're looking up at the stars and the moon and you have a thought. Maybe you see a very specific butterfly or butterflies land somewhere near you to allow your guides. My guides love to send me feathers or represent themselves in different birds, especially red birds. Red birds is always a sign from my grandmother just saying, hello, I'm here with you. Good morning, good afternoon. So rainbows are also usually very significant for somebody. So these are all beautiful ways to just be reminded that we are guided and protected, that we can clear, cancel, and release things that no longer serve us, and just bring about the new beginnings on to your journey of spirituality, especially if you're new to it.
I'm looking at the spiritual meaning of the swallow.
Oh, is that what that bird is? As a swallow? Either way, this is a very, very beautiful card. Lots of great interpretations of some of the things that we all get as reminders that we are never alone, you guys, ever.
So this card is showing off to me different types of signs and reminders that we can receive from our guides, whether that's butterflies, whether that's cotton candy clouds, whether that's a feather or a certain type of bird, seeing a rainbow. These are all different signs and reminders that we are loved and that we are constantly, always. I don't even feel like I should say constantly. It's just because it just is. We're connected.
Yeah.
We're just connected. Whether you like it or not, y'all. So I think that this is reminding us to be on the lookout for those. And just like you were pointing out to the rest of the spread, like it's reminding us to rely on our guides.
Yeah. Which is, we'll get to that after you. Yeah.
Okay.
What's to say there?
So angels and loved ones in heaven are sending you signs of their presence, whether it's same number patterns or sequences, feathers, seeing the same kind of bird at special times, like you said with your grandmother, or even feeling that you've been visited by a loved one or an angel in a dream or at some point during your day. These are all messages of support. You are on the right path, and you are being guided to know that you do not walk this path alone. In times of need, angels are beside you, blessing your heart with love and healing, and your angels and loved ones in heavens will never leave you. Their love will never die. I think that's really cool. Love doesn't die.
Absolutely.
I wanted to also share, I looked up what the meaning of sparrows were, because on this card there are 2 sparrows, and they symbolize anything from good luck, safe travels, happiness, and positivity.
Oh, to the rainbow, you guys.
You know, I saw a rainbow the other day, and I was so excited because I don't think it rained. Y'all, we're in Texas. Don't know if you know.
Hasn't rained in a minute.
It's freaking hot. And so this day, there was no reason in my mind why there should be a rainbow. And it was on my way to work, and I just happened to look up. You guys, do you realize how often you drive staring down at the road and at the people in front of you and you forget to look up?
Oh.
I mean, like, I did it at a stoplight, y'all.
Okay.
I'm not saying completely disassociate from what you're doing. But it was just, I felt like it was for me in a way.
Yeah.
I know I'm not the only one who saw it. Or at least I hope I'm not. I hope other people got to share in that experience. But I did feel like that was a gift, a reminder.
And, those messages can be for a collective of any of those that were coming across that information. Just like this episode could be a message from your guides channeled by us to give to you as a reminder that you're not alone, you're on the right path, you're fully guided and supported at any given time, and there is a community of people to help and support you whenever you need it. This is one of the things that I saw when I was channeling, when we were pulling these cards, and one of the clear messages that I was getting from them is that it is more important than ever at this time, at this transition of our race of being human, to start really picking into these abilities that we have and really start connecting with your inner self and your guides and your supported Mount Glass team. How you choose to do that and how it looks for everyone is different, and how you'll move through this journey is going to be different and unique. And that's exactly the way it's supposed to be. It doesn't have to come across and do one way, the way I did it, or the way Carrie did it, or the way you hear anybody else that did it. So I hope that these messages that came through from the cards today, because wow, they really did tie back to exactly what I was picking up. And so that's very nice and validating, which is exactly what I asked them to do, is validate what you're saying. So
I do know that diving into spirituality can kind of seem a little overwhelming, but really it's just creating a deeper relationship with yourself and with that which is around you that you are always connected to. It doesn't have to be scary. I also understand that there may be quite a few people that are still in disbelief of our potential. And I get it. That's fine. I'm not saying that the disbelief is wrong. All I'm asking is that you be open with curiosity to the possibility. And then go from there.
Yeah. I was in disbelief at one point until it happened. Now I can't be in disbelief anymore. So that's always nice.
It's kind of like with aliens, right? Like for decades, we've been told, no, aliens aren't real. And we've had like little individual reports that are like, no, I communicated with them. And we just blew them off. And like, something or other happened to the person. And now
our government's actually talking about it on news channels. That's crazy.
And now they're finally coming out and being like, oh yeah, they've been around for a while. And we're like, duh, we've known this. Like, it, it just makes me go back to the questioning of authority and trying to discern their intentions behind what they say. Because what they tell us, meaning leadership, what they tell us as a large community is not truth with a capital T.
Boom. To each his own.
All right. I'm off my soapbox.
All good. Soapboxes are great. And speaking of soapboxes, we have to say this repeatedly throughout this episode. Please help us. And go ahead.
Don't beg.
I'm not begging. Do it. Do it. Listen to your authority. Just kidding. Hit the like, subscribe, notification bells. All those little things help us grow. We really, really appreciate it. And if you didn't know, we have social media if you like the shorter form content at Love Always Self on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok and YouTube Shorts. And of course, we have a website. It is lovealwaysself.com. There you can actually find our Amazon shop, and all of our decks are on that said shop. And yes, we get a little kickback for that. It only helps our channel grow a little bit further. So we appreciate you. All right. I got it out.
Yeah.
I did a good job.
I thought I was going to have a part in that. And I was like,
I got you. I got you this time. I'm on top of this.
I just look like a fish.
Fish lips. All right. We hope that you enjoyed today's episode. I don't even want to know how many bloopers we had in this one, but you know what? It only makes our Saturdays brighter when we get to watch them and make them. So
this is true. Thank you guys so much for being here today with us. We love you greatly and constantly, always and forever. Don't forget to love first,
love last,
and love always.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Hey, listener, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us in this moment. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we look forward to our next connection.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow to stay notified of new content from Love Always Self. If you have any questions or topics you'd like for us to discuss, please hit us up on any of our social media platforms, linked in the show notes below.
I'm Karista.
And I'm Shira.
And until next time, remember to love first,
love last,
and love always. Love Always Self podcast is meant for entertainment purposes only. We do not make any warranties about the completeness, reliability, and accuracy of the information presented in this podcast. Any action you choose to take upon the information in this podcast is strictly done so at your own risk, and we will not be held liable for any losses and damages in connection with the use of our podcast. Any and all medical concerns should be addressed with a licensed healthcare provider, as well as any questions that may be derived from the information discussed in this podcast.